I've whittled down dozens of adjustable dumbbells to these. Well, not these ones. They didn't make the cut. We've compared all the options out there so that we can find the perfect one for you. But here's the thing. Depending on who you ask, the Pepins are the best, or maybe Ironmaster's QuickDraw. What about Nuobells? There's, of course, Powerblocks. Let's not forget Rep's QuickDraws, the Trulaps. Oh, and about 24 other options. So how do you know which one to pick? We've done in-depth reviews on these. I've drop tested them even, or maybe especially the ones companies tell you not to drop, which, by the way, is almost all of them. And I've done teardowns on them all too. Well, I mean, at least all the ones that can physically come apart anyway. And I've done all that in hopes it helps you with your purchases. Because my favorite thing about searching for the best of something is nobody knows adjustable dumbbells like the New York Times. So rather than just giving you my recommendations, we'll also break these down. But since we all have different workout styles, wants, and needs, there's no perfect adjustable dumbbell for everyone. So I'm going to teach you what to look for when shopping for adjustable dumbbells so you can pick the perfect pair for you. We'll cover all budget ranges and every single style of dumbbell there is. And to make things easier, I'll rate our picks using this nifty little system here that took about 12 hours longer than it should have to create. Because that's how we do things here at Gluck's Gym, the hard way, since I never learned my lesson. So if you enjoy our content and want to support my stupidity, then please use our links if you decide to purchase one of the items we talk about today, because the company will send us a small commission at no cost to you, which is how we fund these videos. Because even though I did get a few of these for free, I bought quite a few of them as well. With so many options, the first thing you'll have to decide is what's right for you. Do you need something that goes super heavy? What about quick weight changes? Or maybe you're big on drop sets and don't want to be tethered to a cradle. All dumbbells have their advantages and disadvantages, even fixed dumbbells. If you're here hoping I'll tell you the best adjustable dumbbell is better than a full fixed set, you're in the wrong place. I don't think we're quite there yet. With a full set, you can work out with all your best bros at the same time. And they're more durable, though they have their drawbacks, namely the space they take up and the price. My full fixed set of dumbbells, up to 100 pounds, cost over 2.5 times what the most expensive adjustable costs. And they don't even go as heavy as these do at 125 pounds. Still, I'm not going to tell you something I don't believe, which means some people's gold standard doesn't make my list. Sorry, Nuobell, but let's tackle the first rating on my system, durability. I'm a big advocate of gym equipment lasting a long time. And by that, I mean we spend a lot on this stuff. So in an ideal world, I hope to hand it down to my kids someday. That's the pinnacle for me. That doesn't mean I'm saying you should spike your dumbbell in celebration of a new PR. It means if something happens, they fall off a bench, or you tweak something and have to drop them, I think they should be able to withstand that rare occurrence, or at the very least, you should be able to easily and cheaply repair them if they can't. And they definitely shouldn't wear down and break during normal everyday use. And no, having to buy new handles isn't a repair. Unfortunately, Nuobells check off none of those boxes. As we showed in our teardown video, their internal build is incredibly complex, and not only does it utilize a lot of plastic components, but some of those plastic parts that are integral to Nuobell's function will wear down and break. When Nuobells first came out, we didn't have as many options, so it's understandable that they've sold so well. After all, they're still among the quickest and simplest to change weights with, and the design is gorgeous. Many of you have had very good luck with yours, and they've lasted years. That's awesome. But adjustables have evolved very quickly the past few years, which Nuobell clearly realized, since they'll be coming out with new upgraded models in the future. But we'll need to get our hands on those and take them apart. And I can't recommend these in hopes people get lucky they keep working, because it's not if they'll fail, it's when. On the opposite end of the spectrum is Ironmaster's QuickDraws, and I mean that literally. With a simple and clever all-metal design, they've been the most durable adjustable dumbbell for many years. I mean, they're basically the only company crazy enough to tell you to drop your dumbbells, which we tested by dropping them an excessive and dramatic amount of times. Whereas Nuobells have a quick and simple weight change system, the QuickDraws are slower and can be a bit clunky since there's no weight indications. So you kind of have to count the weights out yourself. Because you physically tighten the locking screws, there's no rattle or play between the plates. The quick locks are also compact, and because of their lack of a cage, they feel like and emulate a fixed dumbbell very well. That being said, the handle has a longer grip length than many other options, which may affect balance if you don't center your hand well. That extra space is for the heavy handle kit, and with it and the various plate add-on kits, you can get the Ironmasters up to 180 pounds each, giving them an absurd weight capacity. But they still have the ability to do balanced weight changes in 5 or even 2.5 pound increments with their micro plates. The knurling on the quick locks is pretty good for an adjustable dumbbell. I guess that's kind of like saying no offense and then saying something offensive. Adjustable dumbbell knurling as a whole can kind of be all over the place, so that's an area I'd watch out for. But the quick lock knurl is pretty clean and grippy and works well for anything you throw at it. If you're looking for a heavy dumbbell that's a good value, these are actually a little cheaper than most other options in this weight range. They're very durable and perform like a fixed dumbbell outside of the slow weight changes. They have an outstanding warranty, and the design has stood the test of time, and they've been a popular choice for decades and will continue to be. Kind of piggybacking on the Ironmaster recommendation is the Eisenlinks. These are essentially a budget version of the quick locks. It's not hard to see the similarities because they're based on Ironmaster's older design. So same basic parts, a handle, locking screws, and a series of square weight plates. They both go real heavy and are made entirely of metal. The plate change system is a little different between the two, but it's the same basic concept. So neither are going to be super fast, meaning neither are great for drop sets. We covered their similarities and differences in depth in our Eisenlink review, and if you want more info on those or any of the dumbbells we talk about today, we've done dedicated reviews on all of them. Another factor to consider with any piece of gym equipment is the company's history, and this is the best example of the two extremes, with Ironmaster having been around since the 70s and Eisenlink appearing just a few years ago. I'll argue and have argued that Ironmasters are the better overall system. They have a better build quality, knurling, and are the system I prefer, but for almost 30% less, the Eisenlinks are a very good value on something that pretty much does the same thing, even if not quite as well. What about an in-between though? A quick changing system like Nuobells that's much more durable. Enter Snode's 8080s. Much like Nuobells, these use a twist-style weight change system, but rather than the grip rotating, you're using the dial on the edge of the handle. The biggest difference between them, though, is the Snodes have a much more durable build that utilizes less plastic. The cradle, handle, and plates are metal, and the internal system that changes the weight is much simpler and it's serviceable. You can repair it if you were to break something, though based on my very logical and scientific tests, it would be difficult to break them. I'm not sure how many drop montages I can fit into one video, but we're about to find out. One important note, Snode uses some plastic internal components, but in our teardown and tests, we didn't find any evidence those parts would wear over time. Unfortunately, Snode isn't quite as refined in all of its design elements. They start at 10 pounds and jump 10 pounds at a time up to 80 pounds, and while they have magnetic adder weights, they're not integrated, so it's far from ideal. All these twist-style dumbbells are taking pretty heavy inspiration from each other. They all require a cradle to change the weights. I think they basically all feel the same during exercises. I've literally gone so far as to test them on multiple exercises with one in each hand. Yeah, they might be slightly different sizes, but outside of small differences in the handle diameters or knurling, I really don't feel much of a difference. Those knurlings, by the way, tend to be on the passive side because they can't cut much of a knurl into them since they all have components inside the handle. The 8080s are a very good dumbbell as long as you understand their limitation. And as long as that limitation, 10-pound weight jumps, which you can find workarounds for, isn't a deal breaker for you. If it is, you may be very interested in Trulaps. These are generation 4 of the 8592s, and they go from 8.5 to 92 pounds with a flick of the wrist. Like a really long, drawn out, awkward flip. These adjust in 3.3 pound increments, which sounds odd because they're using this weird system called kilograms and they're using 1.5 kilogram increments. How dare they engineer something without putting us Americans first? Luckily, you can easily see both weights as you adjust them. These are actually one of our most used dumbbells, which I do understand the irony of that statement as I'm doing a breakdown of a dozen of these things, but I just find the small integrated weight changes to be so much more convenient than a lot of other systems. Unlike Ironmaster, the Pepins, Powerblocks, and others, I'm not keeping track of extra components to switch to those smaller weight increments. It's all right here. What I also like about Trulaps is they're repairable. They're very simple to take apart and put back together without any special tools and without any prior knowledge or expertise. I think that's important because if something were to break, you can fix it and wouldn't be out an entire dumbbell. While I don't see these wearing down under normal use, I don't think they'd hold up to heavy drops, but Trulap will replace them one time during their 3-year warranty period if you do drop them, so we're going to give them a little bonus on their durability rating. Now, these, like all adjustable dumbbells where you're not screwing them together like Ironmaster, are going to have some rattle to them. That's because you need some room between components, otherwise changing weights or getting this in and out of the cradle would be awful. I will say having this many plates can make these a bit finicky to get back onto the cradle sometimes. They are pretty though, with this two-tone chrome finish and priced very closely to Snode and Nuobells, with code GLUCK saving you 5% on Trulap. But since you're getting 12.5 pounds more per dumbbell, they're a bit better value. Also, if you don't need this much weight and want a cheaper set, the 8552s are just a lighter version of the same dumbbell. Those go from 8.5 to 52 pounds and are expandable to 92 pounds later. If you're looking for a dumbbell with quick integrated weight changes and smaller increments than Snode's, or if Nuobell's durability scares you away, these would be my choice. All right, but what about actual budget options? That's where loadable dumbbell handles come in, and there's a few different styles to choose from. Basically, everyone makes one of these. This one's from Gungnir, this is from Fringe Sport, Bells of Steel, Titan Fitness, and that's the order I'd rank them and their build quality in as well. Gungnir's are by far the best with those built-in collars, but for $600 shipped, they're really not going to do much more than these others do. I've been recommending Titan's handles ever since I bought these years ago because even though these other ones are nicer, with Titans at $100 shipped, the quality to price ratio is just absurdly good. With this style of loadable handle, one thing you have to keep in mind is some of them can be very long, which can affect your range of motion on exercises, and they don't provide a flat surface for you to prop them up or set them down on, which means they're a great way to fake a leg injury to get out of training your legs so you can get back to training that upper body. Another budget option is Kensui's Adaptabells, previously known as the Adjustabells. They solve the size and flat issue by using a locking screw type system so that nothing sticks out of the end of the dumbbell. To change plates with these, you have to unscrew and screw back in the lock. So it's slow, but there's always trade-offs with Adjustables. The pros are made of nylon fiberglass, and I don't really recommend them because I doubt their durability and longevity. At $50, they are very cheap, and I know it's about gains, not beauty, but I prefer having my teeth, and I don't really trust them. The Maxes are made of aluminum, and while you're not going to be able to abuse them, they should hold up fine otherwise. Just remember in your budgeting that handle-style dumbbells need plates, and while the Adaptabells can use Olympic or standard-size plates, by the time you add those on, and if you decide you want the centering adapters or extension screw, those things all add up. And since every time I review something, the price seems to go up, like these have, to $130, they may not be as cheap as they seem to be in the listing. If you're looking for a budget pick that's not a loadable handle style dumbbell, I'd look at Powerblocks. They've been making these things for over 30 years, so there's about 700 variations of them, with their most recent evolution being the Pro 100 EXPs. But it's the Elite EXPs that are our budget pick. For $360 shipped for a 50-pound pair, and with them going on sale constantly, you can easily get them cheaper, and they're expandable up to 90 pounds, which covers most people's needs. Technically, these are the Elite USAs, which are the only dumbbells in this video that's made in the US, so they're more expensive, but their design and functionality is very similar to the Elite EXPs, and I lent mine to a friend, which means I'll probably never see them again, so these are going to be our stand-in. All Powerblocks follow the same basic concept. You change weights by moving the selector pin, and if you need smaller increments, you pull out or add in the adder weights, which sit inside the handle. It's simple, if not the quickest system, but these are one of the few options that work well with drop sets because you don't need a cradle to change weights, and you don't end up with your plates falling over or all over your floor either. People tend to either love or hate Powerblocks because of the cage and boxy design. I've grown used to it over the years, so it doesn't bother me, but it can bump you during certain exercises, and you may have to figure out workarounds for some movements because of it. Also, the shape and the adders sitting in the bottom of the handle can affect balance. Not to the point where it really impacts function, but I don't think anyone is going to argue these feel like a fixed dumbbell. Also, some versions of Powerblocks may have higher end touches. A knurled handle instead of rubber, a more open style handle versus the 4-post cage, urethane coated plates instead of powder coated steel, or even the ability to go heavier than 90 pounds. And while I prefer those touches, they tend to be much more expensive. The Pro 100 EXPs, for example, cost over 50% more than the Elite EXPs, and the urethane coating kind of makes them comically large at heavy weights, which is great when you're trying to impress your neighbors, but otherwise I prefer the much more compact form factor of the Elites. If you haven't gotten caught up in the hype of all the new options, the Elite EXPs are a solid and durable choice that gives you a little more bang for your buck, especially when they're on sale. Another budget option that's potentially the most durable on the market is Reps QuickDraws. Now, before some nerd does a dollar per pound calculation on all these options and lectures me on value, just know I've already done all those calculations myself. And when I say budget, I mean versus options like Powerblocks or the Repins that cost over $1,000 for a full set. So how do the QuickDraws compete? While they don't go as heavy, maxing out at 60 pounds, they have a better build quality than most. The powder coat, knurling, mostly metal build, and even the engineering that went into these is all impressive. But the thing that stands out the most about them is their durability. Obviously, by this point, you know I've drop tested them, maybe even in dramatic fashion, and I'd put these up at the top with Ironmaster's Quick Locks and the Repins on durability. If you don't need a super heavy dumbbell, there's a lot to like about them. Also, they're expandable, so you can buy whatever set you need now and just add more plates on later. To change the weights, you just flip the switches on the plate you want to engage, and it's the same process with the 2.5s. It's not a difficult system, but the 2.5s aren't integrated, and the black numbering is tricky to read, which is why I painted this one. So changing weights can take a little getting used to. Once you're familiar with it, it is pretty quick and straightforward. You don't even need the cradle to change weights, making them more convenient than some others. And while the QuickDraws have 2 support rods, which make them more rigid and help with that durability, I haven't found they get in the way much, and I've actually used them as handles during sub movements. That doesn't mean they're perfect though. They're not very compact. At 60 pounds, they're similar in size to Nuobells and Snode at 80 and a fixed dumbbell at 100 pounds. Also, the tolerances between the plates aren't that tight, so they do rattle a good amount. I don't find that, the size, or the bars to affect balance and feel much, but if the gold standard is a fixed dumbbell, these aren't going to feel quite the same. The QuickDraws, though, are a good budget option, and they're just about bulletproof. Not that I tested them that way, although I did roll the next pair off a roof, so let's be honest, that does kind of sound like something I would do. That brings us to the adjustable dumbbell that was crowned king before any of us even had it in our hands, the Rep X Pepins, or Repins. I'm not sure I've ever seen a piece of home gym equipment hyped as much as these. And they are very good, but they're only the best if they're the best for you. As with the others, I did a teardown on them so I could see how they work. And of course, I dropped them to simulate how they'd hold up to years of use and abuse. You know, because most people roll a dumbbell off a roof and into the woods. There's no denying the Repin's durability, which becomes more important with how heavy these go, maxing out at 125 pounds. They feature a fully metal build, the plates, dovetails, rails, and the internals and mechanisms, everything. Even the cradle is metal with some UHMW thrown in so that it's not scratching up your dumbbell or your table, making a big upgrade over the cheap plastic cradles many of these have. The Repins are bolted and welded together and incredibly solid. They have the highest build quality of any option. The finishes are fantastic, the nickel-plated handles, the laser-etched weight markings on the Cerakote rails, the black powder coating looks great, and they have the nicest knurling you'll find on an adjustable dumbbell. Even selecting and changing the weights is pretty straightforward. You push the magnetic pop pin, slide the rail to where you want it, and then pop it back in. And I gotta say, the sound of everything clicking into place is incredibly satisfying. You do have to adjust all 4 rails to change weights, and with the adder weights, it's definitely not the quickest system, but I've beaten the crap out of these and somehow they still work, and I've never even had the pin or adder weights come out during any of my clearly intelligent tests. Unlike with a full cage, I don't find the rails to affect the balance or feel much. They emulate a fixed dumbbell pretty well, and because of how they're built, they have less sag or slack than other options do at much lower weights. And that's where this love story ends, because I do have some issues with them, namely with the adders. Yes, they're not integrated, which makes them a bit clunky, but the rings are always trying to make out with my hands, and the adders rattle enough during movements, especially ones where you rotate the dumbbell, that it makes me question if they'll stay in, even though I know from all my tests they will. The rails can also get in your way some. I haven't found too many exercises where they're really an issue. I just make sure they're rotated the right way, but I've heard of people with bigger hands hitting the pop pin out, and it's a tight fit if you're using straps. The Repins are also the most expensive option on the list, starting at $1,000 shipped for the 85s and going all the way up to $1,400 for the 125-pound set. That price is going to take these off some people's lists. Despite their drawbacks, if I could only have one set of adjustable dumbbells, these are the ones I'd pick. The fact that they go heavier than most, the attention to detail and refinement in the design is second to none, and I can easily see myself passing these down to my kids someday. But remember, I'm not you, so let me know what you'd pick and what I missed. Check out this playlist here to see our detailed breakdown on all these dumbbells. Thank you so much to our Patreons for making videos like this possible, and thanks for watching.